It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into a Friday. Gary, how are you?
Been an interesting day.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, yesterday was an interesting day. This day is only 6 minutes old for us. So.
Yeah, still been interesting. Yeah. All right, so Matt Gaetz is out. All right.
Yeah, and was it? Yeah, it was the beginning of this week. And you know, I think you were the first to put it this way, that no matter whether, you know, because these allegations, whether they are true or not, it doesn't matter. The nomination process cannot be a trial on it.
Yeah, right. It turns into a trial.
Right, and that's the problem. Whether you love him or hate him, and that the other thing, I love it because we haven't heard it since probably when Trump was in office. Remember, everything was, well, he's playing 4D chess. He's one move ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
So it's like, stop it.
Not with Matt Gaetz, he's not.
Stop it. I mean, it's just, it's like, come on. And then the one I loved was, well, this is because, look, you and I talked about, in every single election, there's always new surrogates of that candidate-elect that are absolute. That our candidate can do no wrong. There's not. This is 4D chess. Well, you don't understand what's going on. He's doing this because he knew that Gaetz wouldn't be confirmed, and this is the one I say. So Pam Bondi can be put in. Well, you could have just appointed her to begin with. Yeah. You're not even connecting the dots.
Right. Stop
smoking pot. Yeah. You know, I mean, before you start doing analysis on it, that makes no sense. Or, well, no, this was supposed to happen all the time because then, you know, this is the 4D chess that Trump was playing. This one was like bizarre. And I'm like, are you people even thinking? At least a couple of people went, it's 4D chess. We just haven't figured out what it is yet. I can accept that one. Okay, but when you but when you come up with the, you know, the one scenario, well, Trump did this because this is a 4D chess he was playing because he knew he wasn't going to get it, and then he knew at that particular point then DeSantis would appoint him as the you know in the Senate to replace Rick Scott. It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Yeah. And again, DeSantis came out. And the story's out yesterday, he's not considering Gaetz.
Right.
Because all you did was highlight the allegations. And as Kimberly Strassel pointed out yesterday, the one story not covered by the Trump surrogates, because what you heard was this has been fully investigated, right, by the Department of Justice, and nothing is there.
Yeah,
The Department of Justice only limited the allegations to the sexual trafficking. The House Ethics Committee was investigating sexual misconduct and or illicit drug use, shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use, and or accepted a bribe, improper gratuity, or impermissible gift. The only thing that the Department of Justice looked at was the sex trafficking, and for the Trump, I don't want to say surrogates, or the absolutists, the ones that. And we dealt with this in 2016. I remember saying one time, look, every politician lies, including Trump, and we said, but Trump's lies are dumb. I mean, they're not 99% of the time based on an issue that he's supporting. He's very clear on what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And when the Democrats lie, it's on the issues. The border is secure. Stop it. That just as an example, the woman called and said, Trump has never lied ever. I'm like, oh my God. Stop it. We live in the real world here. We don't live. We don't do political endorsements. We tell you. I mean, I voted for Trump 3 times. Mm-hmm. I told you, and we told you specifically why we voted for Trump every single time, including this time.
I voted for him 3 times this year alone.
Yeah, Oops. Exactly. Right.
Are we on the air?
And that was never mentioned, but that was a big thing. That was a big thing right there. They knew. That was the thing. Everybody knew that and didn't talk about it. Everybody knew that this was more than, that the excuse, well, the Department of Justice looked at it and there was nothing. They knew that all the House Ethics Committee stuff, and again, not saying that he was guilty of any of these things in the House Ethics Committee, because we don't know. But it was a list of other things completely different from what the Department of Justice was looking at, and that was a problem. You can't hold a trial on that, and Trump knew it, and then they counted the numbers, and, they made it sound like, oh, he just out of the blue, when I saw it was like, oh, he has resigned. No.
Well, no, it went down as we said it was going down. I said the other night that they're doing a head count right now, and that may have been last week. That I said that, but yeah. they because they have to have one, and they do it privately. There's this a very quiet head count. You got to know if you have it or not. They're doing the same. They probably already done it for Hegseth, and after you do the head count, you go back. It's basically the Senate whip count, and you go back and you see if there's any wiggle room, any asterisks with any of those no votes from your own party, because that's going to require everyone in your own party, at least all but two. So Murkowski and Collins, you can set them aside or whatever. So that came out yesterday. New York Post had it. It was a sourced piece of information, but they said that they basically passed that on to Gaetz, that head count, that there's no path to confirmation. And right after that happened, he went, and now CNN claims they asked him a question about, new allegations or something. And right after that, he made the announcement. The Post is saying right after he got the head count, was told there's no path to confirmation. That's when he announced he was withdrawing. The same is going on with Hegseth. Because the thing with Gaetz that you point out, by the way, is important, because here's how the Democrats would stack it. During the confirmation hearing, it would be, okay, this senator is going to have these questions about these allegations. The next senator is going to have these questions about other allegations. So you stack them where every question is, every single senator has, every single Democrat has a set of questions about different allegations, so that people are going, whoa, what are all of these? We knew what was in the news. That's the problem that you have, because it was becoming, someone said, forget about Supreme Court nominations and those Senate confirmation hearings. This would dwarf that because of everything, that's coming out. The stuff that we said would leak about the House Ethics Committee report, and also the back and forth within the Republican Party. One of the things, too, that you have in place after November 5th is a consensus within the Republican Party to get the president's job done, the incoming president's job done. In 2016, 2017, you didn't have that. You didn't have the GOP gelled behind Trump. In any of the confirmation, in the entire confirmation process of any of the cabinet picks, when you start having the rift between, like in the House Ethics Committee, although they're not part of the confirmation over in the House, you're having, the committee is split on the vote as to whether they were going to give that information from the House Ethics Committee report over to their friends in the Senate. And the speaker was saying no, but there was indication from the committee that some wanted to. Again, you don't want this back and forth within the party when you know it's going nowhere to begin with. You've got the infighting then on top of all of the allegations and the questions and the entire trial that would happen that has nothing to do with the agenda of Donald Trump.
Yeah. And that's what, we had pointed out earlier, that what you want from, all of your cabinet choices and anybody that you appoint to anything that's very high level is what we've seen this week with Tom Homan. He's out there promoting what he's going to do. And that's what you want at this. This is what you want. You want to be promoting the agenda of Trump and what you are specifically going to do so the American public understands it. I saw I haven't seen the poll yet. I just read the headline that people look at Trump as not trying to divide. Right. That he's trying to get things done. We'll get to that poll a little bit later on. I just saw the headline on it. I went, oh, this is interesting because it was taken here in the last week. It wasn't taken before. That democracy poll. The democracy polls that were the majority showed that people believe that Trump would protect democracy more than Harris. That was just beautiful with everything that has happened. All the allegations. But that's what you want. Exactly what you want is what Homan is doing. And Homan, I think, has been very, very effective. He's
straight to the point and never, by the way, never varies off of the point of the job at hand.
Right. And I think one of the best things he did was when they were asking, why are you so emotional? Why are you so passionate? He said, because I've held the dying kids in my arms.
Yeah.
I've actually, seen it. I've seen the crime that has been committed, because of it. And I get very emotional, basically when American lives are lost and they don't have to be lost, when people are murdered or people are, baked inside of a, inside of a truck. Or the cartel and fentanyl and all that. He goes, I've seen this all, and it's horrible, and we need to stop it. We need to have an organized, legal immigration system, which is a totally reasonable position from a guy. If you just saw him attacking the Democrats, you'd say, okay, where is he? Where is he on this when he's being hit by it? And for him to take what he is doing, that's what you want over the next 2 months, and that's what you would have wanted from Gaetz. What you want with Hegseth, which you're not getting. Right. What are you actually going, what are you going to do? And you want that across the board, and you're not going to get it. And I thought when you said it, the way you said it, I think it was on Monday, or maybe it was last week. I think it was Monday.
It was last week.
Was it last week?
Yeah.
When you said you cannot have a trial in the nomination process on, and this was after I brought up, for example, the John Tower. The last person not to get it, who ran for Department of Defense back in 88, 89. And, it was his womanizing and his boozing. And he was voted out.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why we understand the precedent of, what Congress likes and what they don't like. It's sort of like when people were furious at us when we predicted what the Supreme Court would do, back in 2020. Right. And we just said, look, we're just telling you how it works and how they view the Constitution. And they look at it and they go, sorry, states get to control the election. Right. If you can't absolutely prove the fraud with the numbers, they get to do what they want to do. And even if there's improprieties in it, for example, where you had early voting and other stuff that had happened,
stuff changing on the fly,
right? And we said they're not going to overturn this, and we were right. I mean, every single one voted the way every single conservative, and people were furious at us, and we said, look, we're not saying there wasn't improprieties. We're just telling you by history what is likely to happen, and the same thing we did with Gaetz. Well, said it was an uphill battle. I didn't know it was going to happen, but when I learned more of the stuff that was coming out that was different from the argument that the Trump surrogates were making, which was, well, this has already been looked at completely by the Department of Justice. That was flat out wrong. There were, as I said, 5-6 other things that they were looking at. Yeah. And if that would have come out, it would have taken away from moving the Trump agenda forward. Well, and Pam Bondi, there's no, she can do what Gaetz did.
Yep. Great attorney general in Florida when she was attorney general there. This is, so look, it's just the way it goes down. And the whole, when you look at the big picture, compared to the Dallas Cowboys, Trump,
I got to hear this. Okay, I'm ready.
Trump won in a big way. All right, Dallas Cowboys. Dak gets a big contract. It doesn't mean anything if you can't win a home game. You got to win the home game.
I think that was an emotional response from you being a Dallas Cowboys fan. You had to throw that in there.
It doesn't work, though, right? You got to win a home game. You know what I mean?
It sort of works. Yeah,
the GOP's got to be gelled going into January.
Right. You got to win a home game.
Yeah. You got to win a home game.
If you're going to invest that much in, if you can't win a home game,
yeah, you got to win a home game. You got to have your own party on board. You got to have your own team on board and gelled going into January.
Oh, that reminds me. I have to watch the highlights of the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game yesterday. It was played last night, played in a massive snowstorm.
Yeah.
I just saw a video on X, and I'm like, oh, I got to watch a little bit of that one. That looks cool.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys analogy.
Seriously, I thought that was a pretty good. Get the team gelled going into January.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in the truck's air system. That's why it's crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test. In addition to changing your air dryer desiccant cartridge and draining your air tanks, make sure that no alterations have been made to the air compressor discharge line. This can dramatically increase the amount of moisture in the air system. Lastly, have a professional technician check the condition of your air dryer heater, purge valve, and check valve.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, one of the questions that I was asked, that I got a message yesterday, one of our listeners saying, well, can he go back into Congress? Yes, he can, but I don't know
There's a couple of ways, in fact, he could go back and have that same seat.
Oh, yeah.
He won the election with no issues at all in Florida 1.
Right, so he can go back. He can go back and serve in January.
And if something came up, some kind of technical, I don't know, the snafu came up in the House, the special election he would win hands down.
Yeah,
he would win it.
Right, but
no problem.
But he's the law's clear. He's in. Mm-hmm. If he wishes to go back, now that's the point. Does he wish to go back?
Well, yesterday he posted a picture. Appeared to be at the Capitol steps. His wife reposted the picture. The end of an era. So I don't know what that means. But yeah. What does he want to do?
Well, because does he know that they absolutely will release the House Ethics Committee report if he goes back?
Right.
And if he doesn't go back, they don't release it now that he's out of it.
Right.
And like I said, I don't know.
Right.
We've said all along, everything is an allegation.
Well, and he has someone made the point, he's got his podcast, he's got all these other things he's filled in at Newsmax.
Oh, yeah.
All these things that he's done in the media.
Well,
you can take off and monetize on social media.
You don't make a lot of money as a member of Congress.
No.
When you live there. I mean, and you're saying, because I think, what is it now? A member like him would be what, 180,000, 190, 200,000.
Yeah, right.
And they have homes, where they're based, and they have homes in Washington D.C. And that money doesn't go far.
Right.
You can make millions on a podcast or getting involved in the media.
Right. Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
In Turn Night Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, if you look at what I want, personally as a voter from this administration, and it's to move the things that I agree with, which is the majority of things I agree with what Trump wants to do. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
The people there come and go.
Right.
And I want a smooth transition because you don't have a lot of time.
Right.
And so that's why you and I said it's going to be a problem for Gaetz. Still may be a problem for Hegseth also. We'll get to that in just a moment. I got a few people asking me that, well, what do you think about that Hegseth? Then we'll get to that in just a moment. And that's why, as we have said on the show, the nomination process cannot be a trial on anything except what the Trump administration, the incoming Trump administration, plans to do and what you're going to do about it.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it's got to be. You cannot be. And with all the new allegations, and I guarantee they looked at all the new allegations. Or not, excuse me, all the new allegations. That's what they are. The allegations that the House Ethics Committee was looking at besides what the Department of Justice was looking at. And they just went, that's too much. That's just too much. And they didn't have the votes to begin with. I'm sure they did the vote counting. We know they did. In fact, we know they did the vote counting. And they just said, we don't have the votes now. And if this is going to be what we hear for the next 2 months, you don't stand a chance. You're out. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality of the way that it works. Now, for Hegseth, the problem is, you had the police report come out, the highly redacted police report. The first thing that I noticed, because it was, what you heard from, again, the loyalist to Trump is that, okay, it shows he's been cleared completely. And, they couldn't come to a conclusion in the investigation is why they didn't do anything. What I found interesting is they came to different conclusions than the lawyer. The lawyer, Hegseth's lawyer said he was, basically he was bombed and that the woman was sober. That's not the report that came out from them. Now, that may mean nothing, but it doesn't matter. There's different parts to the story. There's contradicting things that are said, which means what? More publicity on it. But that might not be his biggest problem. His biggest problem is that Wall Street Journal covered it among others, that the Trump transition team and Trump blindsided, number one, he never told them. Mm-hmm. He never told them. And then he never told them, this was another thing, because that was, when did the first details come out of this?
Oh.
Was it
last
week? Was it last week?
Yeah.
And then Wednesday they were blindsided again. They didn't know that he had a copy of the police report. He didn't tell them. Right. That's strike two. You're a nominee, and you're not telling Trump, these are the things in my closet.
That adds credibility to the CNN story that Susie Wiles got on the phone with Hegseth, because the story also said that the Trump team didn't do any, basically, third-party vetting.
Right.
You hire an outside firm to do your vetting, and you go from there. And according to the story, the sources in the story said that didn't happen. And then Susie Wiles was on the phone with Hegseth asking him, is there anything else we need to know?
Right.
And by the way, that's on the transition team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the transition team will look at it and say, it's like human resources.
Yeah.
You hire somebody, it's your job to vet them. Mm-hmm. But if you say, have you told me everything? And yep, I've told you everything. Is there anything in your closet we need to know about, because we'd like to hire you to this position?
Certainly.
And you say no,
and you've already got a copy of that report.
Well, no, I'm talking about the first time. The first allegations come out, and you're blindsided by that. And then you ask him again. All right, you didn't tell us about this. Is there anything else? No, everything's fine. And then a second thing comes out that you got the report. Trump isn't pleased. I guarantee Trump is not pleased at all. But the last thing they want to do, well, I'll say this. I think I agree with you. If Hegseth is out, it'll be probably sometime next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. If anything else comes out, on this, I don't see him necessarily lasting. They just didn't. If they are planning on dumping him, they didn't do it today because they don't want it. They don't want it to seem like it's
right. You don't want to do
all
it the
at
same
once.
day.
Right.
It wasn't going to happen back to back. But if they don't have and the head count's already been done for Hegseth.
Right.
So that right there, that information has been passed on to the transition team and likely to Hegseth. And then the conversations have likely already occurred. Now it's what to do about it. Wherever the head count is determines whether or not, it's going to happen. This is the process. And if the head count's not there, I had told you off the air yesterday, I thought it would happen by this weekend. I suspected that Matt Gaetz would withdraw his name from the running by the end of the year. I didn't see that one happening at all. But the information that was piling up on Hegseth, again, I don't see Trump dying on the Matt Gaetz hill or the Hegseth hill. That's not the battle they're going to take on when the headwinds are there. You're going to find somebody else. The fact that Pam Bondi was named as the nominee, she was probably in the running to begin with, but there were so many stories yesterday that said, no, word is that Matt Gaetz did this on his own. No. It didn't happen that way. You want them to make that announcement. You want the nominee to make the announcement, but the transition team makes that call. That's just the way it works, with few exceptions. Now, some would, if they took their name out of the running early on, before the pick was announced, that happened. Mm-hmm. The senator in Missouri for defense secretary, attorney. Was it attorney general? No, I think it was defense secretary. But those items happen quite a bit. No, I want to stay in the Senate. I want to stay where I am or whatever. But when it's this far in and things come back negative, you go to the nominee as, the head of the transition team. All right, you got to do the deed. You have to own this. This is a trigger you have to pull. And that's the way it goes down. Yeah. I suspect if they're not going to get to that head count, then we're going to see it happen between now and Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. One of the things about the holidays you and I also talked about is that, where we are in the year, people's minds are distracted by a number of things. People forget things very easily. They go away, as they should, as you want them to. If you're in the transition team, you want this to completely be off the table, not part of the conversation, long before January.
If the stories that I've read are true, including the Wall Street Journal one from yesterday about Hegseth, that there's two strikes, that they were blindsided by the first allegation, and they're like, you didn't tell us this. Is there anything else you need to tell us? And then the police report, they didn't know he had the police report.
Yeah.
They were blindsided again Wednesday by it. There's two strikes with your defense secretary, and you're saying, you're not, if this is true, I'm sure Trump's saying, you're not being honest with me. How can I trust you if you're not being honest with me? So it might not be, the allegations might be over for him. That might be enough to clear it. Some of the senators were saying that yesterday. Look, these are all allegations that have been out there for a while. Here, the police report is out there. This seems to be consensual. There's nothing there, and he might be able to clear it based on that. But the fact is, now there's the trust factor inside the transition team, which means, Wiles and Trump.
Yeah.
And it's like, can we trust this guy? If that's true, that's what they're thinking.
Well, if he's going out of his way again to protect his backside, and it's not about the service to the administration and the American people, that's a problem. And the fight to clear his name, his own name, whether it's Gaetz or Hegseth or anybody else, is on them. It's not on Trump.
Yeah. And again, you're going to have the media looking into every single aspect of his life now. If anything else comes out, any type of other allegation, I believe at that point he is done. Because you go back, and again, as we have talked about before, this is just looking at, again, how it works. And this goes back, I always go back to John Tower. And the allegations weren't even nearly as specific with John Tower back in '89 for Department of Defense.
Right.
You know, and he had a long political record. And it was like, nah, everybody knows you're drinking. Everybody knows you're a womanizer. You can't be in here. Mm-hmm. You can't do it. And he lost the vote. He actually got to the nomination vote and lost.
Right.
Which was rare. And so there's just when you're talking about something like the Department of Defense, you run the Department of Defense. And we've talked about this before with, other nominees and Democrat nominees. You cannot have the perception that you're doing something wrong in your private life, or you have a pathology of doing something. And right now it's not a pathology. It's this thing here. But if there's a pathology, then the concern is you're susceptible to blackmail because of what you do in your life. Rightly or wrongly, that's the thought process behind it.
Right. Yep. I had to, by the way, had to click on a couple of liberal stories about Pam Bondi. She's now the nominee for Attorney General, former Attorney General of Florida. And Politico had this one, 5 things you need to know about Pam Bondi. I'm going to read this as 5 things you can argue about at the Thanksgiving table with Trump supporters. So here's the first one.
Okay.
She was the first female attorney general in Florida. Whoa, Politico, what? What? You recognize that? I'm sorry, okay. All right. She has a close relationship with Laura Trump. Say it isn't so. Where's this going? She's a former Trump lawyer. What? She nixed, this would probably be of anything. It's not, it's nothing. But she nixed the Trump University fraud case. Well, basically, here's how it went down. Trump paid a fine because his foundation improperly donated $25,000 to Bondi's political election committee in 2013 before her office opted not to pursue a fraud investigation into Trump University. Trump eventually, by the way, paid, as they point out here at Politico, $25 million to settle fraud complaints against the now-defunct university. Bondi said she was unaware of Trump University complaints at the time, and that the contribution had nothing to do with her office's decision not to pursue the case. I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And then the final of the 5 is her dog custody battle played out publicly. Bondi was involved in a custody battle with Hurricane Katrina victims over a St. Bernard she adopted in 2005 after the dog was separated from his family during the storm. I mean, again, there's nothing here that's going to get in the way of a confirmation.
Well, that dog story could.
Yeah, it could be. If there's any emotion,
the dog
it's
story.
not the Trump University thing. It's the dog story for sure.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just reading this here. And Jennifer Rubin calls for a Morning Joe boycott. Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post. And,
yeah.
She's just gone absolutely crazy. She's the one that says Republicans want to kill. We played it yesterday. Republicans want to kill your kids. She's just, let's put it this way. She's not a happy gal.
She's not. Seems to be miserable.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
She is so.
And
she's, you know who's perfect? Keith Olbermann would be perfect for her.
Mom!
She would be perfect for him.
Well, they actually probably would be. That would be misery times 2. They both are miserable. By the way, I will say this. On the whole, I'll take the lead from Joe and Mika, and I will reach out across the aisle and go with Jen Rubin. I am boycotting Joe and Mika. I refuse to watch it.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Made it to Friday. All right, so what is MSNBC? What's some of the first reaction from MSNBC to Pam Bondi?
Okay.
As the pick now from Trump for Attorney General. Here we go.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
There is no such thing as an MSNBC seal of approval for any Trump nominee, but that's about as close as it gets. I don't know how you earn that if you're a Democrat even, but...
Well, just so you know, whoever the Republicans nominate in 2028, 2032, 2036, 2040 also will be Hitler.
Well, by then, Trump, Barron Trump's going to be like 7 feet 10 inches tall. I suspect in... did I do my math right? 2048 he'll run?
My point is it doesn't matter. There is no acceptable candidate.
No.
But for the left, so we all know that. But
listen between the lines, it tells you it was a good pick.
Yeah.
She is competent based on her time in Florida as AG. And also, again, I went over to Politico. I thought, okay, I'll bite. I'll take the clickbait. The 5 things you need to know. Are you sure there's only 5, Politico? Are you sure? You want to stop there? The confirmation process is going to be likely going to be smooth. It'll be the back and forth that it always is.
Yeah.
Politically. Yeah. But that's not that's
no, but
always going to be.
It'll be issues based.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of issues, Brian Williams on what is it? Seth, what's his name? The late night show,
Seth Meyers?
Yeah, I'm going to say Seth Williams, Seth Meyers. Brian Williams with Seth Meyers talking about the election. And just when you think that he's getting it, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is his explanation
as to
why, because you are you're now out there. You're getting just a ton of autopsies on the Harris campaign, and they never get it right. You think they may be getting it right, and then you go, okay, you don't get it. Here we go.
It is tough love time for the Democratic Party. I think it needs to be stripped down and rebuilt. I think that means a change in leadership. I want to know who thought it was a good idea that Joe Biden stand for another 4 years at 80 years of age and 37% popularity. So then that saddled the party with a British-like short campaign season for them. I think it's insulting when members of the working class, which the Democratic Party has lost entirely in our lifetimes, to insist the economy is doing great. A 12-pack of Bounty is $40. Rich folks don't feel that. Poor folks already switched to Sparkle during the COVID, during the lockdown. And I think telling them that the NASDAQ is gangbusters is further insulting. It's insulting. I think the biggest unforced error of the Biden administration by far was the border. To tell people it's not a problem is insulting. For the working class to see incoming migrants getting welcome bags, debit cards, and motel rooms is probably insulting as well. So there's a lot of work to do. You know, it was when they handed out camo hats that said Harris Walls, and the Democrats they were kind of charmed by that. Their party has gone quinoa, and the rest of America's eating at Cracker Barrel. And so it was kind of an ironic use of something millions of Americans put on their heads to start their day every day. Yeah, they need to reach out to America again and be less about what's called suicidal empathy, worrying so much about minority groups in society and in your party that you win the argument, but you don't win the election.
Right there. That's where it's wrong.
Right.
That he's saying that they're winning the arguments, but they didn't win any of the arguments. They're not winning on the radical transgender movement. They're not winning on these arguments. They still don't get it. The reason, I'll say it again, the reason the Democratic Party lost is because the public has realized they suck on the issues.
Yeah, it's reality.
That's why. That's what it comes down to. And that's why she couldn't go on to Joe Rogan. That's why she couldn't do any long-form interviews.
The reason she couldn't speak is because there's no way you can when you have to come out and own your radical views. We saw it when she was in California. We saw it when she was a senator. We were paying attention, and we remember then. She couldn't do an interview because she can't convince anybody that she's on the side of Trump on major issues like the border and fracking. She can't convince anybody that she's going to grow the economy. In order to have any conviction about anything, she would have to honestly talk about her radical views, and there was no way that was going to happen.
You know, I mentioned Rogan because I seen yesterday part of the podcast from Mark Halperin, who did a pretty good job in the last in the election. He really did. But here again, I go, nope, you don't got it. Here's the quote: "I'm not for gratuitous criticism, but we all know the truth." Halperin said about Harris, if she could have gone on Rogan and survived 3 hours, they would have put her on Rogan. The problem is she couldn't do it because she cannot make difficult decisions under pressure, and that's what running for president and being president is, and people are just talking around the problem. You're talking around the problem right there because it's not, you're right. She can't make difficult decisions under pressure, I don't believe, but that wasn't the problem there. The problem was she can't tell the American people where she honestly stood on the issues, which why she co-opted where Trump was on all the major issues.
Right. And did a horrible job of it.
They still don't understand it's their stance on the issues.
Mm-hmm.
And they're throwing all this window dressing up, and it's like, no, we should have had glitter over there and no glitter over there. You know, that it's the glitter. The glitter's the problem, you know, and she couldn't handle stuff. Actually, she probably could have handled stuff under pressure. She would have done the wrong thing.
Yep.
Because her belief system of how to run government is wrong. And so it's not all this stuff surrounding the campaign. It's not about, we know it's not about the money. Didn't matter how much money they had. They couldn't sell they couldn't sell to the American public their ideas. It's that simple. And why? Because those ideas finally hit the wall of reality. You know, when we heard Brian Williams talking about the border, to say there was no problem at the border, it's not about there wasn't any problem. You know, when you see yesterday the number of stories out there that Biden now is making it easier for migrants and illegal immigrants. It was never because they couldn't handle the problem. It wasn't because they just denied the problem. That was part of the problem, that they denied it. Mm-hmm. But the biggest problem is they created the problem.
Yep.
So they couldn't solve the problem if they created it. And until, and I think Halpern's pretty good. And Halpern had a lot of great calls. But you look at Brian Williams, look at Halpern, you look at anybody on the left analyzing what happened in the election, and they don't get it. If they got it, Hakeem Jeffries would not still be the leader of the Democrats in the House.
Yeah, it's but it again, you have to look away from reality, or you never saw the reality in the first place of where the Democratic Party is. They keep using words like, they're saying the Democrats are saying the wrong things. They're not talking like regular people. They're not talking about the issues. Brian Williams goes on this thing of, quinoa and the rest of the country is eating a Cracker Barrel. No, reality is that the rest of the country is dealing with a broken border, higher crime. They're underwater because of inflation, and prices won't go down. And over again, they're getting pounded by this every single day. It's not the messaging that's wrong. It's reality has hit them. It's not the way they talk. That's not even the point. It's the fact that they can't acknowledge reality. They created this reality we're in. They can't fix it. It's why they can't acknowledge the reality that they created. And Democrats, the rank and file, they know this. They know it. The heavy-handed over-response to COVID and the spending that went along with it. That ushered in a new era of reality, and everybody shaking their head when they stepped out of the haze of COVID and the second wave, which was basically inflation. As I've said, the second pandemic, man-made, created by the Democrats in office. And then the pandemic of a broken border, fentanyl, and then cities trying to decide how much they're going to spend on housing people from other nations. Reality. They can't acknowledge it because they created the current reality. They can't fix it. And they want to keep going down the same road. And there's no way in the world you get elected with those radical views, if you were to, you remember Robert Reich speaking at Berkeley back in the day, years ago, if I were speaking as a candidate and I wanted to speak completely, honestly about the issues, and he talked about health care. Old people, we'd let you go home so you could die. Young people, you're going to have to pay more. Well, if they were to do that and speak openly and honestly about their radical views today, I mean, it's as radical as it gets. The anti-Semitism that is very much alive and a part of the Democratic Party and the left in America is very clear. And if you don't see it, you're not looking.
And Canada, it's good that your prime minister made it absolutely clear his pro-Hamas opinions.
Yeah.
You saw where he said he would arrest Netanyahu
Right.
In Canada.
Right.
It's good to see that. I mean, that's not going to come out of our White House. You know, the anti-Semitism in the White House is more subtle, but it's there big time. But Justin Trudeau, nice place you're going, Canada.
Yeah.
Nice place you're going.
Right.
Let's be as anti-Semitic as we possibly can with our nutty leader. He's a nutcase.
Right. He really is.
He really is.
Right.
God, the more he's been in office, you shake your head.
Based on their own standards, the way that the left in Canada works and thinks, wouldn't that be a hate crime, Trudeau? It is.
I don't know. I haven't checked their new hate crime manual.
I
yet.
know it updates every hour.
Right.
I think
Jordan Peterson would know.
Oh, he would know. He would know for sure.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Mayorkas and Christopher Wray. I love that story. It's like, the letter that Christopher Wray wrote, it's like, stop insulting our intelligence.
Right.
Please, because they were supposed to testify before the Senate on terrorism threats to the United States, and they were going to get raked over the coals.
Right.
Again, they just didn't want to get raked over the coals for their complete mismanagement and their, in Mayorkas's case, his efforts to make the border less secure and make the United States a more dangerous place when his job is to protect the United States.
Yeah.
And Ray, it's a continuing questions of the rot in the FBI.
Well, he's just been, in my opinion, useless as director.
Yeah.
And zero cooperation from oversight. This runs throughout the current administration, but it is part of that culture. And he's a holdover, but it doesn't matter. We know of the culture that was there during Trump's first term.
Oh, yeah. Didn't matter whether Trump was president. The culture was still there.
Didn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know how you weed all of that out, But Ray has just been the biggest disappointment. Well, if you don't count all the others. I had to pull back on that one a little bit.
In your mind, you went, "Oh, okay,
wait.
no, okay." There might have been.
He might not be number one.
Yeah, maybe not number
He's
one
up there.
on the list.
He's pretty close.
Yeah, Mayorkas has to be number one.
I think Mayorkas with the attitude.
Yeah.
You know, again, he's one hairless cat and one layer away from being true Dr. Evil.
To democracy if you don't download our app, Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I found it interesting because you really saw it on social media a lot, and you and I spend a lot of time on X. You know, mostly news people, the surrogates, everything else, just to get the temperature of what's going on. And it was really interesting because we went through this in during the first Trump administration, where Trump would do something that would baffle everybody, and the surrogates would say, well, he's playing 3-dimensional chess or 4-dimensional chess or 10-dimensional chess or whatever. It's like, it was a miscalculation. You're seeing it, here. Trump, the Trump team made a miscalculation with Gaetz.
Yeah.
If they would have known it would have ended up where it did, they wouldn't have done it.
Right.
It was a miscalculation.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Yep.
With it. There's no 10-dimensional chess.
No.
I mean, it's humorous because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I thought the other side was smoking pot. I mean, the things when I woke up yesterday, I was rolling in bed laughing like crazy because it was like, well, no, what happened was Trump's playing 27-dimensional chess and dimensional, and what he did was he knew that Gaetz wasn't going to get approved, and therefore he could then go with Pam Bondi. It's like, what? I almost said Bundy.
No,
she's not related to Al.
No.
And then the other one was, well, Trump did this on purpose because he knew that Gaetz wouldn't get approved, and then that would make it so DeSantis, and sources say National Review, DeSantis is not going to pick Gaetz for Rick Scott's place. But that was the next one. Everybody's jumping to some type of thing. There's got to justify it in some reason because it can't be a Trump team miscalculation.
Right.
It has to be something else. And even Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen.
Mm-hmm.
And normally he does a great job polling. But sometimes he goes down rabbit holes. Here's I just saw this one. Tea leaves. Trump found out what he wanted to know about everyone. That putting Matt Gaetz in there and knowing that Matt Gaetz was going to be pretty radical and there may be some problems with him, they'll find out who's loyal to Trump or not. So now they've found out that Murkowski and Collins and McConnell, they didn't know this before, but these people are not loyal to Trump, and now Trump knows it.
Well, you're also then saying, because if you say that, then you believe the Trump team doesn't know the makeup of the Senate.
Right.
And I don't believe that for a minute.
Right.
They know where every one of those senators in their own party is at.
They don't even understand they're making Trump out to be a complete idiot.
Right. And
by
this is
saying
how,
that.
And this, by the way, and even if he didn't know where they were at, this would be the way he would find out.
Right. Yeah. But
No.
he already knows. He knows. They all
He
know.
knows.
They know every member of Senate who backs him and who doesn't.
Even the incoming senators, they know. Look,
Right.
he had Democrats who were running, pretending to be pro-Trump.
Yeah.
In this for their Senate seats, to keep their Senate seats. Well, the fact of the matter is that This is a much different game. It was a miss, and they corrected it.
Yeah. It was a miscalculation.
And we'll see what happens on Hegseth.
Well, then,
and where that goes, we don't know.
Well, the other reason is because either you have one or two choices. Either Trump is playing 27-dimensional chess.
119-dimensional chess.
119-dimensional chess. Or he didn't stick by his guy long enough.
Right.
Because an hour before, they were criticizing any senator who wouldn't support him, and an hour later, Trump says, "You're out."
Right. Right.
And by the way, that's what happened. Matt Gaetz.
This was not a Matt Gaetz decision.
Right. This was a decision from the team.
That's
how it's done.
This came from the transition team, which means it came from Trump.
Right. And, but I mean, it's like, just deal with it. It was a miscalculation, and it's a miscalculation that nobody's going to even talk about 6 months from now. 6 months from now, it's not going to be. Nobody's going to be talking about it. As we get into the inauguration of Trump, it'll be gone. It'll be gone next week as you move on to something else.
No one voted for Donald Trump thinking, man, I'm voting for him because he's going to pick Matt Gaetz for AG. That's why he's getting my vote. Maybe Matt Gaetz voted that way. This was not an election about that. It was an election about, and the other thing too. Yesterday after the fallout, a lot of people, I don't have confidence in these senators, basically because of the story on the Headcount. And I don't have confidence in these senators. It was always going to go this way. It tells me you don't know the current makeup of the Senate or the incoming makeup of the Senate.
Well, there's a lot of...
You and I just look at what the landscape is. I building a consensus, I believe Trump is capable of doing it. He certainly has a lot more leverage after the election results of 2024. Within his own party, especially, building that consensus, I think he's capable of doing it. And I think, again, he has that leverage. If you don't understand, though, what the current makeup is, or the what it will be with the new senators coming in, I don't know what to tell you. But we look at what the landscape is, what the makeup is. Where those senators' heads are. How this process is going to play out.
Right. And so, but that's what I got out of it. You're talking as if Trump is a complete idiot and has no idea the members of the Senate, of the Republican Senate, who back him.
Right.
And then the other thing is, we're going to show they're going to be primaried in the next one, and because of the Gaetz pick, nobody's going to be talking about that next week. Yeah. It's not going to be a decision maker or change anything in 2026.
Nope.
Or 2028.
Right.
And it's just, I shake my head going, I don't know why that thought process exists. It's almost as if, like, when I read the Rasmussen reports, which is Mark Mitchell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I went, does he understand that he's making it sound like Trump's a complete idiot who doesn't know the makeup of the Senate?
Right.
You didn't know that.
And this is the only way he could find out?
Right. You didn't know that. And so he needs to hurt the movement of his agenda in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
By picking Gaetz so he knows who's not for him in the Republican Senate.
Well,
it's stupid.
It's like you abandon everything that we think about this entire process, which includes, by the way, during the transition of Trump going to Capitol Hill and meeting with members of the House of his own party and also members of the Senate of his own party. This is how you do it. You build a consensus. He knows the makeup left and right.
Yeah.
Literally.
Now
he knows, and he also, again, knows about consensus building.
Mm-hmm.
He knows.
And he knows it better now.
A lot better. And he has a lot better position than he did, coming in when he was sworn in 2017. He didn't have that consensus from his own party. And he may not have consensus on every issue within his own party on Capitol Hill, but it's a lot stronger because the American people gave him that leverage.
Yeah, it might be wise for the people who completely support Donald Trump to not imply that he's a complete idiot.
Right.
Because then it's almost as if, do you understand? Are you living in your own bubble? Now, we did come up with our own 1,000 dimensional chess that Trump played.
Right, yeah.
Which is he purposely lost 2020 so he
Yes.
could make the biggest comeback in political history
Right.
and actually have much more of an influence in 2024.
He was able to buy truckloads of mail-in ballots. That's where he started. Those ballots were burned to power Mar-a-Lago. The incinerator which provides the heat in Mar-a-Lago. I know it's Florida, but
those are actually
don't bring in the facts.
Those were Trump employees in the Georgia accounting room, so he could so he could lose and come back.
That way, it was a miss, but it's over. All right. It's
a nothing. You move on to the next thing.
There is zero impact from this. None. Which is a good thing. And we'll see what happens with all the other picks. I think Hegseth is probably now at the top of the list of those that may be problematic. For us, we have some questions for RFK Jr., but less problematic than Hegseth.
Like I said, I do
in
think
the process.
My only advice I would give to those people who look at any candidate, but in this case Trump, that fully support him 100%. It is probably not advisable to put out statements that imply that he's a complete idiot.
Yeah, right.
Because that's what it does.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
He's well aware. Of
the makeup of the
makeup.
Yes.
Why they go that direct? I think on Hegseth they were blindsided, but again, that's a lesson in vetting. If they're going to learn a lesson, there's a lesson in third party, outside firm vetting your nominee before you go through that. Now, having said that, I don't know if they were in rush mode again. Maybe. He clearly wanted to hit the ground running. He was out there talking the day after the election. He was, very clear on his agenda and has been ever since, and that's a good thing. And did this happen in the heat of all of that? Look, they want to move to put everything in place as quickly as possible and put the team together going into January. I can't tell you. I don't know what happened on the inside, but it's the process hasn't changed and won't change.
Well, what I was thinking is some people that are loyal Trump supporters might have been upset because, they have heard over and over again that, look, the Department of Justice found nothing on him. Well, why wouldn't Trump support him then?
Right.
If the Department of Justice, because that was the argument. Well, as been pointed out over the last 48 hours, that was the Department of Justice only looked into one allegation.
Mm-hmm.
The House Ethics Committee, there are 5 or 6 others completely unrelated to it.
Right.
And those were the things that were going to come out that were unrelated to what the Department of Justice was looking at.
Right.
Now, were they blindsided by that? I don't know. Did the Trump team know about that? I don't know. Obviously, they didn't vet it and know about it before they picked Gaetz, because that's what really, it was the piling on of the new stuff. And that really hasn't been talked about.
Right.
But I think a lot of the Trump surrogates are, okay, we can't, why did Trump do this? We're supporting him. Why didn't Trump support? Okay, it must be he's playing 5-dimensional chess. And there has to be an ulterior motive because he's a genius doing it. No, it was a political miscalculation. Is what it was.
And I could see them, again, being really determined to put the team together as quickly as possible. And it shouldn't, the vetting process shouldn't suffer as a result of that, but I could see that being, a big reason behind it. Clearly, they didn't vet, and I don't think they're lazy. I think it probably had to do with timing. They wanted to, announce these nominees and get them out there and put this team together, and they got blindsided on a couple of fronts.
But if you actually believe in the Trump agenda, you move on.
Yep. This isn't about Hegseth or Gaetz or any other pick. It's about Donald Trump.
Yep.
And why we voted for him.
End of story.
Yep.
It's the hard reality of politics.
It is.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I like this headline. American Airlines expands gate lice crackdown to more than 100 airports for Thanksgiving. What are gate lice? We'll tell you coming up. Plus, man, I'm just telling you, the left is doubling, tripling down on the radical transgender movement. Trans-Montana lawmaker. Now, does that mean Trans-Montana? I think that's not written correctly. So you're not from Montana, but you're pretending you're from Montana? Trans-Montana lawmaker, we're every bit as biologically female as cis women. No, you're not. Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Man, I saw this, and I went, and I fly all the time, and I went, what's that? And here it is. American Airlines expands gate lice crackdown to more than 100 airports. Now, I'm flying to see Dad on Tuesday. I'm like, lice at the gate?
And now they're going to do something about it.
And now they're going to do something about it? And I'm like, do I itch anywhere? Am I okay?
Right.
It's like, what's going on? Gate lice. Let me check my hair.
Right.
Oh, no. Gate lice. I had no idea. I had no idea what the term was until I saw the story yesterday.
I'm learning it.
Never heard of it.
I'm learning it this morning, in fact.
Gate lice are, when you go to board and you have the group number.
Yeah.
You have what is it? What do they call it? There's one before first class. I forgot what they call it. Concierge, is it something like that for American?
Yeah, I don't know.
Though, because everybody's wondering what is that. I found out what that is. That's people that spend over $50,000 a year flying.
Oh, okay.
That's like above first class. I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
Wow. and I went, should I check? I've been flying a lot to see Dad over the last couple of years. No, I don't reach that level. Not close. But American Airlines has announced it's expanding its new technology for the holiday season. So right now, coming up this weekend, to end the process known as gate lice, which is when passengers cut lines in hope of boarding a flight early. The system audibly flags when a passenger attempts to board before their designated assignment is called and will automatically reject the ticket. It won't let you through. It'll go, You will be publicly shamed for cutting in line.
It should be a loud alarm with red lights over the gate, Dang, dang, dang. I bet very few people do it from that point on.
This is not Southwest. Wait a minute. They still board the
TSA agents come up. They were changing the policy. I don't know if it's fully implemented now to go to assigned seats, but at Southwest. But you have TSA agents come over. All right, we need to talk to you. What? I was just
assistance for a strip search, gate 9, please. Passenger trying to get through. Now, I've flown a lot. I've seen it where the first class people get ticked off because before they board first class, there's 30 people in line.
Yeah.
And one of the things is too, people with small kids assume that they can board early. And normally they allow them to do that. But now, and they don't want to. I understand the people at the gate, they don't want to cause a scene. And because it'll put up, but now that you'll be publicly shamed, and then it rejects the ticket, so you can't go through. They have now given the gate attendants, that's all you need. I'm not making the decision. You're not in the right one. And so there's really no more controversy. And they say they now expect to expand to 100 airports by the holiday season. They said in a press release that the ability for customers to aboard their assigned group is important to them. The initial positive response from customers and team members has exceeded our expectations. I'm sure the team members, I'm sure, what are team members? Oh, the employees. No, I'm sure the employees are happy with it because it's out of their control. They're not making the decision. They're not going, okay, sir, it's automation.
That's actually how you want to implement something like this. You don't want to have the debate with someone because when you have the debate, if someone says, what? I thought you called. Well, now you're slowing down the line even more. If it beeps or honks or sirens go off, then it's going to, it's going to tell everybody. And, of course, fewer people are going to want to do that. But it's automation, as you mentioned, and it's not this debate you're having with someone right there at the gate.
Right. Well, you heard, too, that one of the problems is one of the other problems are people are using wheelchairs that don't need the wheelchair. They're getting wheelchair assistance, and they don't need it. They're just using it because they get to board before anybody else.
Yeah.
And they said that's becoming a big problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was a rumor for a long time that if you got on the plane first, you got there sooner than anybody else. But it's not true. It was just a rumor.
We all know what it's about. It's about getting, an overhead bin.
Mm-hmm. Well, your wheelchair's not going to fit in it. I hate to tell you. Brian Regan years ago did a bit about, the impossible. He said he wouldn't make a good flight attendant, because you have to deal with the people trying to, the one guy who's got, what is he says, you have a full-size mattress and a yak. It's probably not going to fit up there, you moron.
Bill Burr did a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
About,
getting on the plane.
He said, when I started out as a comedian flying everywhere, and I'm in the back of the plane. I'm in row 36E or whatever it was. He said, so I kept flying, for the job. And so you build it up. And all of a sudden, boom, I can fly first class all the time because I've earned it. So there I am sitting in the first class line, and 50 people are boarding before me.
Yeah.
And he goes, and then the funny part, he goes, with all due respect, there's too many people boarding. And I understand. Military gets to board whenever they want. He goes, but it's gotten so bad. maybe they should have a requirement that you've seen combat in order to fly,
Right. Yeah.
to board first.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the list keeps getting longer. The pre-boarding,
Yeah, it just the pre-boarding. You're like, okay, but if you're in, I fly enough where on American, for example, if you're in. Because the least status I've had is gold because I've flown I'm above gold now, way above gold now because I fly a lot more. But even when I was gold, you had no problem because you could get, if you're gold, which isn't a lot of miles, probably you can get gold if you fly 5 or 6 times a year. And when you get that, you can reserve your seat and you always you can pick an exit row seat. I've never had any problem getting an exit row seat. As a 4, and then plenty of places to put your luggage. It's when you get like 7 to 9. I think it's 7 to 9 now. If that's your group number, you've got to check your baggage.
Well, I found that with traveling and a number of things, you have to temper what if you know what you're dealing with, you temper your expectations going in. Because if you have carry-on luggage. Mine's a backpack. I can put it under the seat in front of me. I rarely travel with carry-on luggage because I'm often traveling for work and I'm carrying podcast equipment with me. And I actually check that stuff on because it's packed in a hard shell case, and that's just the way I prefer to do it, rather than hold everybody up in line and have to take everything out of that case and have it X-rayed. That's the way I will do it. So I rarely have a carry-on piece with me, aside from my backpack. But if I do, I always think to myself, plan for them wanting to take that down below and check it for you if there's no overhead. I plan for that time in the entire process of getting there. And once you do that, I mean, everybody seems to be, again, if I get on the plane first, I get there sooner. I understand people want to expedite that process, and it's the reason you have carry-on luggage to begin with. But if you know what flying has become, I mean, they're packing the planes now. And if you know what flying has become, you kind of have to temper those expectations.
I haven't checked a bag in probably over 10 years. I used to check golf clubs for when I flew back to, see my dad, which is a lot. I fly back a lot to see my dad.
Yeah.
And what I finally did is my brother had old golf clubs, and I bought him a couple of years ago. I bought my brother a new set of clubs. Said, "Here's your Christmas gift." He looked at me and goes, "You want to use them when you come back in town, don't you?" And I said, "Yes. And if we golf, we'll simply take your old golf clubs, put them in the bag because you can't share a bag.
Right.
But we'll use the same club from we'll use the good clubs from the bag.
Right. Yeah.
They won't know it. We'll have 2 bags when we walk up there. And so I haven't. I just haven't. It's just too much of a hassle. You come into DFW, it can be an hour before you get your luggage, and
I haven't had to wait on luggage.
Oh, I always
for longer than, by the time I get out there and my ride gets there to the airport, it's usually maybe a 10-minute wait. The last time I waited a long time, there was lightning in the area, and we actually were held up on the tarmac. They couldn't actually get us to the gate because of the lightning in the area. And then by the time we got to the gate, they said they sent people home. The baggage people had been sent home for the night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa.
Yeah, coming back, and it was a work trip, So we had to wait for employees to come back. They were called in and then get our luggage. But
they may have sped it up over the last, because I haven't checked in 10 years, so the process might be quicker.
In my experience, and it may be because of where I'm flying and terminals I go through.
The other thing is I always check the oversize, which was my golf clubs.
Yeah.
And that was just always, that was always, I can't tell you how many times the golf clubs didn't arrive with me.
Wow. The oversize, we've traveled with oversize a couple of times, my wife and I, on personal trips, like the massive suitcase
right,
that nobody ever uses. And we decided, okay, we're going for a week in the mountains and, like Tahoe or wherever, and we're going to have all this stuff with us. We'll just pack it into the one oversized luggage. And the few times that I did it, the oversized luggage came out first because it comes over on a separate roller. And it came out first. So I considered that to be a win. I know that's not the case every time, but, I considered that to be a win.
One other point, because you brought it up. You're at the gate. You can never hear what they're saying. And at DFW, when they redid a couple of the terminals,
yeah,
you still can't hear what they're saying. The whole point is to communicate. Why have a microphone and speakers if people can't hear you, which then takes me to the every single dang professional sports teams. We live in 2024. The press conferences. Here's the coach. Well, yes, what? You can never hear the dang question from the reporters.
Again, Brian Regan, nunchucks and flamethrowers, one of his specials. It was about that, and whether it's coaches or athletes or the police, because it's like the question will come after an incident.
Yeah,
and it'll just, and then the police, and you don't hear the question, and the officer responds, "No, we think they're actually in that neighborhood right now."
Yes,
and then the next answer is, we think nunchucks and flamethrowers, which became the title to a stand-up special. But, I mean, that's maddening.
Why is it? They know it.
They know
They
it.
know. I mean, and
there's a way to fix it.
The NFL drives me crazy because they're really in enclosed rooms. And they come out there to speak, and it's like you can just have.
And they do it. They do it all the time.
Right. It's not like this happens once in a while. It's every time.
Right.
Put the boom mic, put it right there, flick it on, have somebody there do it. And it's like, don't you understand? I mean, they send you get all these now fancy, which is really cool with the NFL. I don't watch any games anymore. I can watch the highlights.
Right. Yeah.
Watch in 10 minutes.
Right.
All the great plays. In fact, I've cut it down for like the NFL highlights. They now have like the 4 or 5 minute highlights, which is only your team scoring. That's the way to watch highlights.
Yeah.
You never have to, the regular highlights. Oh, the other team scored, and then you had to come back and score. I don't want to see their score. Just show me the highlights of my team scoring.
Exactly.
But it's very, it's sophisticated. It's, it's done. The production elements are just superb. And then, all right, now time for the press conference. You can't hear it. It's just like, they know it. Why don't they change it?
Right. In that setting, they have the ability to change it and set it up. Again, in the field after an incident and then police officials are doing something, maybe not. But at games in sports, they've been doing it forever, and nobody's fixing the problem.
No. Now, the only exception I could see would be the Dallas Cowboys. You wouldn't be able to hear the reporters ask the question or Jerry Jones answer it.
Well, and Jerry Jones asked the important questions, according to Jerry Jones.
He asks his own questions, so you don't need the reporters.
Yeah, we think nunchucks and flamethrowers.
Jerry Jones asks his own questions, and we don't. The media is not invited anymore.
I have a question for you.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, one more football story, all right? And don't worry, you'll be interested. After numerous NFL players pulled out President-elect Trump's viral YMCA dance, known as the Trump dance, the league said that none of those players would be fined. However, ESPN personality Stephen A. Smith was annoyed at the league for even addressing the new celebration. Here's why I'm ticked off. He didn't say those words, though. That the NFL even had to issue a statement about it because celebrations usually don't warrant that. He said it doesn't require a response by the league. So why was it necessary this time? You know why? Because we got a bunch of people still living with their heads in the cloud, acting like they get to protest every little damn thing. And this is America. Donald Trump won the election rather convincingly, I might add. Smith later blamed woke and cancel culture for the NFL feeling the need to discuss the celebrations and credit those for Trump's victory. See, I have no problem with the NFL announcing that the Trump dance is fine.
Yeah, right.
I have the opposite opinion of Stephen A. Smith, but not for what you might think.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it ticked off everybody on the left when the NFL announced it. They were fine with it.
It brings more attention to it.
Yes, exactly.
It officially, within that organization, brought attention to it.
I was like, no, I'm fine with it because I know they're going, they're love the Trump dance.
The videos are everywhere.
I know.
It's everywhere. Yesterday I was thinking about it. I thought, man, unbelievable. Not just the win, but this is really, you know what this is? This is dancing in the end zone. Politically, this is dancing in the end zone.
After you have scored.
Yes, exactly. And that has been, the Dallas Cowboys need to stop dancing in the end zone and wait until they win a game at home.
Well, they haven't been dancing in the end zone.
No, they have. That explains why they haven't been playing. They're all dancing in the end zone.
No, they haven't been in the end zone.
No, that's the only time not with the ball.
Oh, okay.
No, dancing.
Okay. It isn't after they score. I get it
it's
now.
The Cowboys.
Right,
they don't have the ball in the end zone. Have you seen them this year? It's a... I have a question for you. It's a beautiful thing to watch that play out because it does drive. It's everywhere. It's viral, the videos of everybody doing the Trump dance.
I know.
And it's driving the liberals bat soup crazy, even further bat soup crazy.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, it's out, the 2024 presidential election results from every state and the swing from 2020. All right? Where was the biggest swing? What state? What do you think? Mm-hmm. The biggest movement for Trump.
Yeah. Where?
New York.
That's where we thought it was going to be.
Yep. New York. Harris won by 11.7. That is a movement of plus 11.3 for Republicans. Number 2, New Jersey. Harris won by 5.9 points. That's a swing of 10 points for Republicans. Florida, number 3, 13.1. That's a swing of 9.8 in favor of the Republicans. Massachusetts, she won by 24.5. That's a swing, though, of 8.7 Republican. California, this is in order, by the way, in order of the biggest swings. California was number 5 there. Number 6, excuse me. Won by 20.6, but that's a movement of 8.5 Republicans. Texas, number 7, Trump 13.8. That's a swing of 8.2 for Republicans. And it goes all the way down in every, let me see, is there any state? There's not one state where the Democrats increase their lead, not one. The least was Washington State. Harris won by 18.5. And that's a movement of 0.7 for Trump. And then Utah, Trump 21.6. Trump won Utah, and that's a movement of plus 9, or excuse me, 0.9 for Republicans. So there you go.
Yeah. Right.
But I thought just fascinating to see. That's what I was. As soon as I saw that, I went, okay, is there any state? Is there one state where she did better? And there wasn't, not one.
It's it's a normal response by the people who analyze these things to have them say, well, they'll be studying this ground game for a long, long time. You can't study the ground game without acknowledging the reality that was in place on the issues for Trump. The ground game is part of it. Campaigning is a huge part of it. Effective campaigning is critical, and they did that. But reality was very, very clear and working for them based on what the Democrats caused, what they put in place, the reality that they created for millions of Americans. Well, for every American, but for those willing to look politically, that's what they were responding to. And it was the ground game and the technical stuff and the door-to-door, all of that is great and interesting, but you have to have the issues on your side. You can spend, again, as we've said, you can spend $2 trillion. You can have the best ground game out there and still not get it done. And the Democrats created this reality, and that created a whole new momentum for Donald Trump, which created the greatest political comeback in American history.
I haven't seen any analysis on this. I've seen Democrats say we didn't use social media, and, the dumb things they said, why can't we have a Joe Rogan? We need to get a Joe Rogan. You had a Joe Rogan.
Yeah, you had actual Joe Rogan.
Right, you actually had Joe Rogan.
Right.
And it was like, are you paying attention? He was a Bernie Sanders supporter. But here's a question that I have, and I haven't seen a lot written on this. You've heard about, again, remember Harris was going to win because there's a better ground game.
Yeah.
Does a ground game matter as much? And I know it helps, ground game you're talking about not just knocking on doors, but actually getting people to the polls and providing transportation and having that type of infrastructure does help you. But does knocking on doors to talk to people convince them as much as it used to? And the thing that has changed when you look at, for example, we do radio. So when we do radio, now we have a podcast, we podcast the show so you can get the show whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But has that made an entire difference of the impact of media in podcasting where people can choose where they go? And the other thing is, and I think this is underestimated, because I think most people know, I mean, we used to get, when I worked for Disney, people would call, well, you guys work, for the right-wing corporate establishment. We work for Disney.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
When we were part of ABC at that point, way back then. And I have worked for more companies that the management was liberal than I have where the management was conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And people just assume, now I'm going to say that and have an opinion on something. Well, I heard you guys say this, and it didn't support what I believe. Is that because your management's liberal and you have to pay attention to what they do?
Yeah.
No,
yeah, that's it.
But we really don't get it anymore where people will say, the one guy called, he goes, you guys just get your talking points. And I said, so do you really think we wait and at 9:30 in the morning we get talking points? And that the talking points are, and the guy went, yes. We just burst out laughing. I'll never forget that.
Well, you caught us.
It was like, you caught us. But I think even, that the left will talk about, the corporations and, that are driving it now, that are supported by the right. But I think most people understand, whether it's a Joe Rogan, whether it's us, nobody controls us. Nobody tells us what to say.
Right.
And when you look at the other media, when you look at a CNN and when you look at a, MSNBC, when you look at the New York Times, when you look at how they're losing, and you have to take into consideration, it's not just that they're owned by corporations, because we're owned by a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get that. I mean, nobody says those anymore. Well, you guys are owned by corporations, so I don't believe what you're saying. Now I'm going to get 10 emails on that because I said that. But in normal times, we don't get that, just people thinking that in their minds and sending it to us. I can't remember the last time I got something like that.
No.
I can't remember.
No.
People, okay, they can tell when you're genuine, and they can tell when you basically work for a political activist group. Now, our management may have different people in management may have different opinions of how they think about it. But they hired us to get an audience by doing what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, and I would say 99% of the situations that I've worked in, I had one general manager that said, I don't like your topics and your opinion. And my answer was, well, then fire me. I mean, you have nowhere else to go when they say that. They didn't. I left before they fired me.
Mm-hmm.
But it just doesn't happen. I've never seen it happen.
Right.
I've never experienced it except once in my 42-year career. And when I was a manager of talent, that's the last thing I was going to ever tell them to do. Look, you need to change your opinion on this, whatever, because I knew who I was hiring. You knew who you're hiring. They know how to do the show. I have been hired specifically from bosses and owners that were liberal, knowing that I had a conservative libertarian mindset. Because what they wanted was, because it was the format. We're doing talk radio. It's conservative talk radio. Yeah, I may be a liberal. And a couple of my liberal bosses were great broadcasters. They knew what it was. They had worked in, it's like, it's a format like anything else. You've got a country format. You've got a rock format. You've got, Taylor Swift format. And you have conservative talk radio, whatever. When talk radio started, remember how, what you need to do is have a liberal show and then a conservative show and then a liberal show and then a conservative. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why the Democrats want that back again.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that? What's that called again? I can't think of the name of that.
Not the equal time.
Yeah.
Was it called equal time?
Whatever it's called. I just forgot the name of it,
Yeah.
the label of it.
Right.
That doesn't work because
the fairness doctrine.
The fairness doctrine, where for every moment that you have conservatives on, you need to have liberal. Well, there's more than two. There's more than two opinions, and if every opinion
even within the same groups,
yes. So if you have an opinion, you can't do it. It's impossible, and Democrats want that because then that shuts down conservative talk radio. When talk radio first started, they were doing that. You'd have conservative shows, and they found it didn't work because people would turn to one, then turn the other one off.
Right.
Because they didn't because it's a format like anything else. And so they understand it. But I think that podcasting and talk radio, and I credit conservative talk radio, by the way, for where podcasting has gone. I really do. Because conservative talk radio is a format that took all the chances. I mean, you look at what Rush did.
Mm-hmm.
Rush took all the chances early on. He took the beat. Yeah, he became extremely rich because of it, but he was the first one through the door, and he's the one that got beat down the most.
Yeah.
And he got beat down consistently, but somebody had to do it in any format where you challenge the status quo, but the broadcasting business didn't do it. This is the other thing people don't understand. They don't do it because they go, well, I want my opinion to be on the air, at least in talk radio. In the majority of talk radio, vast majority, they don't. That doesn't happen in TV. They're promoting an agenda.
Yeah.
Advertisers, if you want to get along, radio is, we don't care what you say, just don't lose our license because we want to pile advertising around you. That's it.
Right.
It's not complicated.
Right.
Don't lose my license. Get me an audience. End of story. And that's why, I think people, and podcasting has taken that now to another level where you can do your own podcasting without a corporation behind you, even though, whether it's Rogan, isn't Rogan, he still works for somebody, doesn't he?
Well, no, he has a deal with Spotify.
Right, he's got a deal. Right, got a deal. Right,
you
an
know,
advertising deal. Right.
You know, but he owns his show.
Right. But you always report to someone who would be the advertisers, whatever.
Right after he signed his deal with Spotify the first time, they came to him and said, okay, so who's your first guest going to be? And he said, no. It doesn't work that way.
But I think that's why people are responding to it. And I think that's had a huge impact in this election, has continued to have it, because people go, okay, no, I think Gary's a complete posterior lobe, but nobody's controlling him. Mm-hmm. And that's all that matters to people. They go, okay, I'm getting it from you, because they understand the agenda media now versus and I may have an agenda, but it's my agenda. It's my opinion.
Right.
And that's different from me parroting the corporate line that you see, for example, at an MSNBC or the legacy media, what it's become.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think also if you're going to have, if you're going to have anything on a podcast that is bold, which to me, it's just basically being honest and being blunt about how things are. You have to credit talk radio for that.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of hits that talk radio took, as you mentioned, specifically for Rush Limbaugh, on that in kicking that door open and then that approach. But even then, there were some that got into talk radio that thought that, it was a more manicured approach. But with Rush, you were getting that blunt, very, here are the facts, here's what they're doing, here's what's going on approach. And the liberals went crazy because there were so many tongue-in-cheek moments from Rush who had a great sense of humor. It just, they wanted to take him to task for every joke that he made, or smarmy comment that he made. The fact is he kicked that door open, and that really is what podcasting has become. I think Joe Rogan's learned a lot in recent years. He will tell you that.
But I think what really catapulted, I think, the entire business of talk is how conservative talk radio survived the summer of 2020 and what happened there.
Oh, sure.
I really do.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And I also think, talk radio, which helped lead to podcasting, also, I think, helped influence what you see on social media, where people, the average person is out there promoting what they believe. There's a community notes behind it. It's wonderful what's going on in this country.
People aren't afraid to take a stand or issue an opinion.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. We made it to Friday. Woohoo! I'm going to sit back and enjoy this here just for a moment. We've talked about many of the surrogates. J.D. Vance, for example, use him as an example that is the vice president-elect, and very blunt. And we've been talking about in the nominees that what we're looking for are people that can explain the issues out there and talk about where the American public, where the American public stands on these issues, that the vast majority are conservative, and be very blunt about where they stand. We talked about Nancy Mace with the radical transgender movement the other day, just being very, very understand where this bluntness comes from. It comes from Trump. Here's an example. Let's go back to 1989 when a guy by the name of Larry King is interviewing Donald Trump.
Okay.
Do you mind if I sit back a little bit? Because your breath is very bad. It really is. Has this ever been told to you before?
No.
Huh? Okay.
The king of blunt. Whoa, Larry.
Your breath is very bad.
Oh, my gosh. What did you eat, a garlic and old tennis shoe sandwich?
Nope.
Huh?
Cigarettes.
Yeah. That'll do it.
That's what it is.
Cigarettes and coffee. There's the combo you're looking for.
Cigarettes and coffee, and I haven't brushed my teeth or flossed in a week.
When I was part of the Rat Pack, Larry, you were never part of the Rat Pack. Yeah, but when I was part of no, but you weren't. Larry King.
That just happened to come up on X.
Yeah.
I was going through under historic videos, and it says, doesn't even say it's Larry King. It just says, Trump tells interviewer, your breath smells very bad, 1989, and it's under historic videos is the X page. And I just saw it before I went on the air, and I went, I got to play this one. I don't know how I'll fit it in. Okay, it's very blunt. Let's go with the bluntness angle. The bluntness angle there.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
Do we have any more of that Gouda cheese left? It's so fun to go back and also look at the times when the liberals were adoring Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They did for years.
It really is.
When he was a celebrity. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he's Hitler. And then he wins in a big way. Okay, well, he's not Hitler. We're going to go sit down and talk to him. We didn't mean Hitler. We didn't mean that Hitler. I mean, where do you go, man? Seriously. In your mind, how do you think this is playing out if you're on the left? And we talk about the lack of self-awareness. I really got to know. In your mind, what are you thinking is going to happen? It was always you could start by just saying, I don't like the guy who's going to do all the wrong things. The guy says stupid things and blah, 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 and I don't like that. That I can compartmentalize. I know that I don't question your self-awareness at that point. But this, they had this adoration across the board. It's why he was a celebrity. He didn't just walk in and take over. NBC didn't give him a hit show. They loved him. Oh, he's running for president? Let's change It wasn't, hey, look, all the years on The Apprentice were great, but here's where we disagree with Donald Trump. Here's where we think he wouldn't make a great president. Or it wasn't that. He's Hitler.
Yeah, he never changed. He really, there are some things he evolved, on, and some of the things that, he did change. But for the most part, the major issues, the core issues Donald Trump has held for half a century.
And he has done, I don't know how many interviews.
Yeah.
With people with bad
he was
breath
adored.
Over the years.
He didn't, here's the thing, he didn't change at all. He was always blunt.
Right.
It's like, wow, there's a certain coarseness. Hey, your breath stinks.
Yeah. You want to back away there, Larry? You mind going into the next room?
Larry, why don't you do it remote from your home and call me at the studio?
Can we do this via satellite? I mean, wow.
That was
Wow.
1989. So it's like he was always blunt. He was always like that. It was just like people. And it's like, well, what is it? What issue was it that made him Hitler? Well, it wasn't an issue. It's just he became mean. Why did he tell you your breath stinks too?
Larry, I'm not saying your breath is bad, but I was wondering if you were standing on your hands. I just
Now, look, I would object if Larry was still alive today and Trump was to appoint him to the cabinet position of dental health.
Yeah.
I would object to Trump's pick
Yeah.
based on what Trump has said before.
Steakhouse czar. What was the old steakhouse he used to talk about? What was the one he used to bring up all the time?
Oh, the one in in Washington, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Duke Zeberts.
Duke Zeberts.
Yeah, Duke Zeberts.
I was on the rat pack. We used to go to Duke Zeberts.
Yeah, I remember Duke Zeberts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I we were having fun with Larry King. He was a great interviewer.
We love Larry.
He could not argue anything. I remember when he used to do what was it? The last hour was Open Phone America. He hated talking. He hated callers.
Let's go to Poughkeepsie. Yeah. It's
whatever. Sure.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Let's go to Poughkeepsie.
But what made him a great interviewer was he would just kind of lob something out there and let the interview subject, the person he was talking to, actually talk. You know, he really didn't make the interviews about him.
No, I've talked about this, that it was working third shift on my 2 numerical control lathes, and the third shift at Worthington Compressors in South Buffalo.
Yeah.
And so I would listen to Larry King. And it was really, I can still remember the interview he did with Phyllis Diller. One of the funniest interviews I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I was dying laughing. I remember thinking, and I had been in radio for a year and then got out of it after college. Went to college, went into radio for a year and got out, and just I sucked. You know,
Yeah.
Worse than I am now.
Yeah.
And by the way, yeah, it was like, were you even listening to me, or was you just agreeing with me?
Well, yeah. No, I was pretty much agreeing with you.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
It was like doing, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
It was almost a Larry response. Larry
Yeah.
King,
Yeah.
Gary,
I got it.
And
then I committed triple murder. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's when I thought I need to get back in. It was Larry King that actually made me think I need to get back in. And then when I got oh wow, this is really interesting, because I got laid off from that job in November. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving's when I got laid off of 1982. And this is a true story. How I got back into radio, I hadn't been in for like 4 years. And I wanted to get back in. I said, I'll also try to get back in since I'm laid off. And in early December of that year, my news guy, who was in a totally different business, but my news guy, who's from college, from the college radio station I worked at, that was before I actually got into commercial radio. He was an electronic genius. So what we did was I put together, we got 2 microphones, 2 turntables with records. I put together a fake show as if it happened 4 years ago, a fake morning show, music morning show. And I had to go to the library, to the microfilm division, to look at things that happened 4 years ago when I was actually in the time, that I was working. And I actually got news stories from that time and put together a fake show. We edited in commercials off the radio. Things were called air checks. You put them together. It was about 15 minutes long. And then he processed it. He was an electric genius. Processed it, limiter, all that stuff that you do to make it sound like it's on the radio, the punch that comes out of it. And it was on a 15-minute tape. I sent one out right after New Year's, the first tape I'd sent out, and I got hired in Fort Walton Beach, Pensacola, Florida,
right.
and haven't been out of radio since. But, yes, I faked my way into radio completely. It was a completely fake tape.
I still am, yeah. Nobody knows.
Yes, it's still completely. So, yeah, I BS'd my way in back in and have not been out since. But interesting story there. I always liked that story. That's a good story. But Larry King was the one that made me think I should get back into radio again.
Yeah.
And there used to be, we talked about this before, there used to be more of when talk radio first started, there used to be a great camaraderie between everybody, whether you were on the left or right. I remember there used to be a talk show group, and I remember, but I think this would have been 95. And it was either 95 or 96. One was in Houston, which was great. Well, we went down to Houston. It was like, 100 talk show hosts. Oh, my God. Let me put it this way. The bar stayed open late.
Oh, I bet it did.
But I can still remember one was in Washington. I forgot it was 94, 95. And I remember, people might remember his name, Ed Till, who was a liberal talk show host, Leslie Marshall, who you see on Fox News all the time, was a liberal talk show host. I believe she was in Buffalo at that time. Myself and a couple of other talk show hosts, I'll never forget, all hitting the Georgetown bars. There was a great camaraderie of the business people that's gone now completely. It's gone.
Right. Yeah.
It's gone.
Right.
And, that I missed that a little bit, but it was a natural progression of it. When the left went insane, you weren't going to have that camaraderie anymore. When you couldn't debate issues. And that's the problem when we talk about, for example, MSNBC. They don't discuss issues. We had talked about this last hour, how important I think podcasting was, how important X was, that people get out there and they argue. The community notes. The community notes forces the left to actually discuss and debate the issues. And conservative talk radio has been doing it for the longest time. And as you notice that if you look at this last election, one of the keys is the Republicans, I'll say the Trump campaign, ran their entire campaign, about, I would say, over 90% of their campaign was simply letting you know what the opposition thought, or the confusion of the opposition not making sense, proving to the public they weren't critical thinkers. They didn't connect the dots. They're scaremongers, and they don't tell the truth about the issues that they actually believe in. And I think, that's really where the problem, they have gone so insanely left, as you and I have said many times as a conservative. Where do you compromise? Manchin was on again. We need a third party. We need to compromise. Where do we compromise on these issues?
Right.
You see it right now with the radical transgender movement. Saw it yesterday with Sarah McBride. Sarah McBride out there on CNN. Well, yeah, they're being, basically they're being mean to me. And I respect everyone. They should respect me. No, you don't. No. You're a man in a woman's restroom. You don't respect any damn person.
Right.
You just want what you want, and you're trying to get the moral high ground. And the idiots, whether it's CBS or the mainstream media, will completely forget about the real women victims in all of this.
Right. The entire group that must succumb to the wishes of the man.
Right. Because the man says so, the woman must succumb to the will of the man. Well, there's no compromising on the radical transgender movement.
No.
No compromising there. No. There's no compromising on open borders.
I have zero interest politically in middle ground.
Yeah. Because it's not middle ground anymore.
There are no winners in middle ground.
Actually, you know why? Because we actually hold the middle ground now. There is no middle ground to hold.
Well, the American people definitely made their choice on November 5th as to where they stand.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And speaking of the radical transgender movement, a Montana lawmaker who identifies as a progressive bisexual trans woman is claiming that men who say that they are transgender women are every bit as biologically female as real women. So, where do you compromise on that one?
There's no middle ground.
Okay, where's the middle ground on that one? You know, now we all know that's a line of bull, whatever. But this is where the left is doubling down. They're not going to moderate. Do you have any indication that they have any plans on moderating at all?
No.
Any plans?
No.
None. I haven't seen any indication except for Seth Moulton, and he started backing off on the whole transgender thing too because he got so much criticism because of it. They can't back off on their insanity.
Well, that's all the more reason. You can't have any dissent within your own party. There is no middle ground between the two sides. Within their own party, there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
Remember, silence is violence. You got to be fully on board. All the way. The entire way. There's no middle ground between anyone on the left. Forget about the left and right. Oh, we got to find middle ground, common. Wake me up when you're done blabbering. Wake me up when you're talking about real things. Because otherwise, nobody's listening. Nobody's in it for middle ground.
Links to everything Red Eye on the website redeyeradioshow.com.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. As always, download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you want. You saw the Jussie Smollett's hate crime hoax conviction overturned. By the way, not on the evidence that existed.
No.
It's a fact that the DA made a deal with him before.
Right.
So, not much you can do about it.
No.
But his career is dead anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing, that entire situation vetted him in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because initially, what did you have? Actually, initially, you had the liberal media and Hollywood on his side.
Oh, yeah.
Defending him, he was the victim.
Golly, what a zoo.
Remember?
Remember what a zoo. Remember it was local Chicago
Local
media.
Chicago. I was about to say, local reporters in
Yeah.
Chicago blew that thing wide open.
Yep.
They were doing their job in that case, and they were getting to the bottom of it. Because the criticisms started coming in immediately. You know, all right, this doesn't add up, and we don't believe it. And it could be that the reporters that blew it open were looking to see if they could, build something that would help defend him. I don't know. But they got to the bottom of it. And that entire process pretty much professionally vetted him in a big way. Dave Chappelle does a whole bit on it. Calls him Juicy Smollett. The French actor known as Juicy Smollett.
I was going to say, is that racist towards the French? I mean,
yeah. It was out there. And for the most part, we do have pretty good instincts. Initially, it was hard to tell what was going on. The more and more people learned about that story, it was like, that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up. And that doesn't add up. In terms of his jail time, he probably wasn't going to do a ton of jail time anyway.
150 days, I think. He did a few days. I mean, he did some time in jail.
But it wasn't this wasn't a long
right.
serving sentence behind bars anyway. So, but again, it was a procedural issue. It was really a technicality that they ruled on. And it's funny because yesterday the story was the whole Matt Gaetz thing. And then the Jussie Smollett story. I keep wanting to say Juicy Smollett. The Jussie Smollett story came out and hit, and everybody was going, for a few minutes, and then it kind of went away. So, yeah.
That was out there, and then when the Matt Gaetz thing came, it just sort of went it became a non-story.
Right.
How long? What year was that?
Oh, when was that? When was the conviction?
Yeah. I just need to get my biological clock reset. I need to know where I am in history.
I know. It's weird because the COVID years clouded all that frenzy of everything that was going on. Let's see here. So it goes back to pre-2019.
January 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was further back.
Early 2019.
January 2019. Remember how bizarre that was? Just how, every single day there'd be more pieces coming in. It was finally,
yeah,
he's lying.
Well, it was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That and if you're a local reporter, that was such a massive story.
Yeah.
There was no way to ignore
it. And the deal to begin with, that's why it was overturned, because went back to the deal. The deal was so heavily criticized all throughout the United States.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And what bothered me the whole time is that, Jussie Smollett was in Mighty Ducks.
Oh, that's right. He was, wasn't he?
Yeah. I'm kidding. That really didn't bother me the most. But yes.
Well, if anything bothered me, it might be that.
But yeah, it was just that became a zoo. It really did. Yeah. Well, speaking about, not uniting, again, it was a race crime hoax, as we all know. Nobody is saying he didn't do it. Everyone knows that the conviction was overturned because a deal was already in place, and the court says that the deal must be honored. It did not say he did not commit the race crime hoax. Of course he did. He was attempting to divide, which is the opposite of Trump. Most U.S. voters say Trump trying to unite the country. He is not a threat to democracy. Most believe that he's trying to unite the country. And most also believe that the left-wing narrative deeming Trump a threat to democracy is nothing more than overblown campaign rhetoric. That's a quote per the latest survey conducted by Harris Poll and Harris X. The survey asked respondents, do you think Donald Trump has been trying to unify the country since the election or has been acting to divide the country? A majority, 54%, said they believe that Trump has been trying to unify the country. That in itself is amazing. With everything that's gone on, that is just amazing. People might say, well, it should be 70%. I understand what you mean.
Yeah, we get it.
But the fact
still,
is, everything that has happened, that's still an amazing number.
Yeah.
46% believe he's trying to divide the country. Nearly three-quarters of Democrats, 76%, expressed a belief that Trump is trying to divide the country. An opinion that's held by just 11% of Republicans. Conversely, 89% of Republicans believe Trump is trying to unify the country, and nearly one-quarter of Democrats agree. That's actually a pretty large number of Democrats when you think about it.
Yeah,
25%.
It is. Yeah.
Independents are split 50-50. The survey also asked for...
That's such an independent position. Oh, we're 50-50. Quit being so independent.
I didn't see the humor when I said it, only when you recognized it.
We're 50-50. We're not on either side. Shut up.
52% deem that the narrative of Trump is a threat to democracy is overblown campaign rhetoric, while 48% generally believe that he is a threat to democracy. That includes 81% of Democrats, 16% of Republicans, 45% of independents. Most independents, 55% of independents believe that it was nothing more than overblown campaign rhetoric. So,
all right.
The best polling that was done, though, was whether it was, I think they did it with Biden and Harris. Who was a bigger threat to democracy? Biden or Trump, and then Harris and Trump, and both Biden and Harris won that they were greater threats to democracy in the polls than Trump. And with the fact that terminology was almost exclusive to Democrats, saying a threat to democracy. I mean, Republicans would fight back and say, excuse me? They're the ones that are trying to destroy the border. But that term, threat to democracy, was owned by Democrats, and it backfired on them.
Right. Well, you know what's interesting here is when we go back to this idea of common ground, Joe Manchin and people like that. Oh, we got to find common ground. We got to find common ground. Think about what that would be if that's the case. What does that mean, really, common ground? It would mean really a 50-50. If it were truly fair, wouldn't it be 50-50? So then isn't that kind of where we are as a nation right now politically? 50-50?
Yeah, but again, Manchin out there, it's like, oh, just go away. Please, just go away. I mean, you're done.
Don't you have a boat?
Right. Go away. Go on your boat.
Dude, you have a boat. But it's it's this
pull a Gary Hart or something.
Exactly. I mean, it's this horrible idea. Well, I don't know about that. Let's see what happens. I'll wait for the book.
I'm glad you were listening.
All the images in my mind. But if they, that's the idea. We need to come together. We're 50-50. Well, no, we're actually at 50-50 now. I mean, roughly. You look at it. it's half the country wants this, half the country wants that. Well, in this case, Trump did win the majority. He won the popular vote, and he won the electoral votes. But the fact of the matter is, it's always been this way. It's been this way from the beginning. I'll take a nation that has people that stand for what they believe with no hesitation in issuing those opinions or fighting for what they believe over this whole idea of we got to find common ground and middle ground and no. Because it tells me a lot of people are giving up.
Well, you had him out there promoting a third party the other day, which is just a bunch of monkey business. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring up Gary Hart's boat's name. But I just, when he's doing this, like, okay, where does the third party stand? Now, we already have other parties. None of them can grab a hold. They tried it with no labels.
We have 9 third parties.
Well, no, how bad it was. Think about it. The third party was supposed to be a party that couldn't define what they stood for.
Exactly. They wouldn't tell anybody what they were doing.
Think about that.
Close the door.
And they're like, we're not going to be right. We're not going to be left. We're going to be the party that solves problems. Where do you stand on the issues?
We're not going to tell you.
We're not going to tell you. Because we're adults. We're the adults. So we're not going to discuss the issues because we care about this country more than you do.
Yeah.
Virtue signaling got to the point of such absurdity that having no opinion because you might offend someone became a legitimate mindset for many of these lifers, inside the Beltway. Because a lot of them were lifers inside the Beltway.
Yeah.
Well, we need another way. What's the other way? Let's have a party about nothing. The Seinfeld party.
Right.
Who's going to lead it? Costanza?
Right. The no labels party. Hey, we're going to give you guys a label. No, we're the no labels party. Sorry, we already did it.
And they actually said it.
Yeah.
People probably think, okay, guys, it's over-the-top rhetoric. No, they didn't really come out and say, look, we're not going to tell you where we stand on the issues because we might offend someone. It's exactly what they said.
And people might want to put us in a certain position,
right?
Position us politically,
right?
Based on what we believe.
Right. If we tell them what they believe, then they'll try to label us. And we can't be labeled.
We're no labels.
So we're not going to tell you what we believe. What we're going to do is we're going to get a group of people which wish to come together, and then afterwards we'll discuss the issues. Occupy Wall Street already tried it. It failed.
Yeah, I'm not shopping at that grocery store where it's nothing but tin cans on the shelves with no labels. I got to know what's inside, dude.
It's like, the childishness of it all. Seriously, it was like just, and it went on for such a long time. And you and I are every day, just shut up.
Yeah,
and that's the way I feel about Manchin right now. Just go away.
Right.
You're not adding anything.
It's over.
But he's not adding anything. You're not adding unless you can justify and promote issues. Stop with this. We all need to come together. No, we don't. Tell me the issues that America agrees with. You want to unite people? Trump united people in this last election more than anybody on the issues. That's where you unite people.
Reality will often do that, and Trump led that movement.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We know if you went to social media yesterday, you saw a lot of people saying, well, Matt Gaetz should now that DeSantis, that this was part of the, fifth dimensional chess, that this was actually done, that Trump actually nominated Gaetz knowing he wasn't going to get it, and therefore this would open up Gaetz to be the senator to replace Rick Scott.
Yeah.
And DeSantis would pick him, and it would just like, people stopped with this dimensional chess stuff.
Right.
And source telling National Review inside of DeSantis' office, there's no way DeSantis is picking Gaetz for the Senate. So
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.